We're in part 3 of our series, All the Feels, and I'm looking forward to this because I feel like tonight it's going to get really honest, really raw, and some things that I've noticed in just doing student ministry over the last almost decade, which is hard to believe, but doing college ministry and young adult ministry for the last 5 or 6 years, just some things that I picked up on through conversation, through just experience. And I think for me, as a communicator, just to be really honest with you, I learn just as much through conversations with people and being in touch with what people are actually going through than I learned just as much from that as like a concordance or or just looking up, in a commentary and things like that. I learned just as much from conversation. I think as a communicator, one of the things that is on my heart to do is to never be answering questions that no one's asking. And I want to answer the questions that people are asking. And so hopefully tonight this helps you out. And so I'm going to be talking from the title tonight, The Dating Dilemma. The Dating Dilemma. And if you would turn with me to Proverbs chapter 3, and we're going to look at verses 5 and 6. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. And at this time, I want to welcome all of our YouTube watchers and all of our just prison campuses and anyone else, our juvenile detention centers, anyone else that is watching. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. It's an honor to have you with us. And we're going to look in Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." I'm so thankful that we serve a God who, if we acknowledge him in everything that we do, that he will make our path straight. One version instead of submit, it says acknowledge. If we acknowledge God in everything that we do, he'll make our path straight. How does he make our path straight? I believe, and if you want to jot this down, I believe that the way that he makes our path straight is by leading us by peace. I believe that God always leads us by peace on the inside. You'll have a peace in your decision making, and that's important, and I want you to hold on to that through what we're talking about, because I've realized this, that life is full of decisions. Anybody else? You realize life is full of decisions. You're making decisions daily, and some more important than others. Like sometimes it's like when you're in Belden Village, it's like Chick-fil-A or Cane's, you know what I mean? It's like the easier decisions that sometimes are hard. Depending on your cravings. But then there's that Starbucks question every morning, like hot or iced. And it's like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of cold right now. I don't, And in Ohio, you don't know what the weather is. If you're like me, you just get in the car and you start driving, and then you're like, is it cold or hot? And you don't know until you roll the window down. So it's kind of like a split-second decision. Like, it's cold, I'll have hot, like give me a hot drink. We have decisions every single day that we're faced with, but those are the light decisions. In all honesty, in every season of our lives, we have decisions that are much more difficult. And they're weighty, right? Like decisions can sometimes be weighty because we understand that our decisions, they determine our direction. And our direction determines our destination. So we want to make good decisions. I don't know about you, but one of the things in my life that I've determined to try to do is make good decisions. I certainly don't want to intentionally make bad ones. Some of you are like, I do. That's good for you. Hopefully we'll have an altar call as soon as I'm kidding. But I want to make good decisions in my life, but I've found that sometimes we can put so much pressure on decisions. And maybe you're like me, where inwardly every time you have a big decision to make, you put so much pressure, self-inflicted pressure on the decisions that you're making that it almost clouds your ability to make the decision at all. And I've found that sometimes with that pressure, it'll actually paralyze us to making any decisions, and we'll default to doing nothing. And I just want to encourage you that no decision is actually a decision. That not making a decision at all, defaulting to nothing, it actually leads to nothing. It leads in no direction. And I want you to think about this in terms of our dating, because I've noticed this trend over the last few years that I can't help but just notice and recognize that people are more and more hesitant to date. And we say, be selective. And I've said it from up here. You've heard us through relationship series. And I still would say, be selective, have standards, make sure that they treat you right, make sure that they are respectful to you. But I almost think that there's this added pressure to any decision to date or even get to know anybody. It's just such a pressure-filled decision that we end up in turn applying so much pressure on ourselves that we default to do nothing, which points us in no direction of a relationship. And we're left wondering, like, man, is it just gonna magically pop up? Or do I need to start somewhere? And I wanna speak to that tonight because I believe that there's more pressure than ever within churches when it comes to dating. As young adults, as young people, you're experiencing more pressure than maybe any generation before you has. And there are a lot of reasons for that I'm gonna get into tonight, but one of the things I wanna make sure that I emphasize tonight is you should always date to marry, but I believe wholeheartedly that every person you date may not end in marriage, and that's okay, as long as you're doing it the right way. I want to say that again. You should always date someone that you could see yourself marrying. But just because at the initial you saw yourself maybe marrying that person, you saw the potential, you saw the standards, you were being selective, and you made an educated decision to go on one date with them, to go grab coffee at Starbucks, and it just doesn't work out, and it just doesn't click, that there's no shame in that. And I think for a lot of you that might be freeing. And I think for a lot of you, maybe taking a step back and listening to tonight's message might really actually set you free, because I've realized that within the church people don't want to date church people within their own community. And there's a few reasons for that. And I want to touch on those tonight because I believe as a community here at the U, we can do better. And I believe as a community, my heart for you is I want you to experience relationships with good, godly people who have good, godly standards, that you're still selective, but you're also not feeling that pressure of, I can't date anyone. And why do people within the church feel like they don't want to date people within their same church community? Why is that? I think one of the first reasons is condescending comments. Condescending comments, or condescending chatter, you could say. If you've ever noticed, and I've noticed this, and I'm gonna stand up. I can't sit down. I try, guys. I really do. It's hard for me. I'm like, I'm gonna stay in the chair this time, guys. Yeah, right. They know by now. It's not gonna happen. Condescending chatter. If you haven't noticed, then I'll fill you in on something. Within the church, there are so many relationship experts. It is crazy the amount of experts and consultants that haven't had a successful relationship past 3 weeks. And I say that lightly. I love you. Don't get me wrong. I love all of you. And that's why I want you to see this tonight. Because I believe that it's a deficit within communities, within churches. That there are so many experts that will tell you how you should live your dating life out, that have no clue how to manage their own. There are people who have 3 weeks of relationship experience that are trying to act like they have 30 years. And it's interesting because what ends up happening is they'll easily tell you how, who, and when you should be dating. And they can easily read all of your mail, but their mailbox is completely full and they haven't addressed any of it. And I think that honestly, and this is an honest conversation, it's from the heart tonight. I think honestly, we have to evaluate ourselves and say, you know what? Like, I don't know everything about relationships. In fact, I may not know much at all. So I'm gonna glean from the people who do. My wife and I, we've been married 10 years. And I can honestly say, I know how we've made it work for 10 years. It's been work. Anything worth having is gonna be work. It's gonna take a commitment from both parties. Even though we love each other and we love each other wholeheartedly, anything worth having takes work over time. It takes commitment over time. Why do we think an education can take 4 or 5 years, depending on your major, maybe even 8 years, but we think a healthy relationship is just, boom, it's got to click, there's got to be chemistry, and everything will be magical and mystical and great. Everything worth having, a career, a healthy relationship, a retirement fund, everything worth having is going to take work and commitment to consistency over time. And my parents, they've been married for 50 years. Crazy, right? I mean, that's amazing. And there are many other couples in our church that have been married 30 and 40 years. I would be kidding myself to think that I know what they know, that I've seasoned the storms of life the way that they have. So I believe that when it comes to relationships, we should take on a spirit of humility and be like, there is always someone that I can learn from, but the people I'm learning from may not be my peers who don't have successful relationships themselves. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but here's why I'm saying this. Because I believe that you should have some people that are able to speak into your relationships and are able to weigh in on your relationships. But if they're people who haven't had any weight in relationships, then they shouldn't be weighing into yours. Because it creates a deficit. And it creates a deceptive a voice in our lives. And I think for me, I have a few voices in my life. My dad is a huge voice in my life. My wife is a huge voice in my life. My best friend is a huge voice. There are a lot of people who have a view of my life that will never have a voice in my life. Why? Because they don't understand the context and they don't know me at my core. The people who have a voice are people who understand my context and know me at my core, who I am. And so I'd encourage you to have a few people that do have a voice. Maybe it's a leader in your life within the church. That's why I think for us as young people, vitally important that we get planted. Why? Because there are people that have been in this church for 20 years that have something to offer you. They really do. They've got wisdom to offer you. They've got relational knowledge to offer you. They've got things to offer you. That's why it's vitally important to get planted in a local church. I think sometimes pastors who have been further along, when I need wisdom, I go to our family care team. They've been in ministry for like 20, 25 years, and they've all been married for 20, 25 years. My parents 50, but I mean, they've all been married longer than me, so who am I going to? I'm going to people who have more experience. Do you have someone in your life that can look you in the eyes and tell you the truth? And do you have someone in your life who has more experience or possesses something that you want to have in your life down the road? See, we can't just keep listening to chatter from the cheap seats of the relational sphere. We've got to listen to people who actually have experienced the consistency, the work, and the play out of a great relationship. And so that's vitally important. I believe wholeheartedly that as a community, we need to just embrace the fact that we're not experts and stop with the condescending, I'm going to tell you everything about your life when, in fact, I don't really know what I'm doing in mine. Make sense? The second thing is simply this. The second thing is the constant comments. The constant comments. You've seen this play out. There's never been more pressure to dating than in the church right now. There's never been more pressure than dating, especially in a young adults ministry. I've noticed this. There's never been more pressure. Why? Because it's almost as if dating has taken on the same commitment mentally for some of us as marriage. Because we've been taught for so long that you date to marry, which is true. You should date somebody that you see the qualities in that possess it. It is somebody you could marry. But it doesn't mean that you're going to get married. And as church people, I found myself guilty of this. I see a couple that's maybe some of our leaders or maybe somebody that attends to you regularly out for coffee at Starbucks. And I'm like, oh, hey, you two. How about that? Well, let me know when you want me to officiate the wedding. I'm in. And you'll say something like that. And to be honest, I had to check myself because I was doing that frequently as a joking thing. And it really wasn't joking. It was adding a ton of pressure to that situation. It was adding unneeded without me meaning it or intending it to be that way, it was adding so much pressure to them to, man, we better try to work this out. And what if it doesn't work out? And in reality, it's okay if it doesn't work out, as long as you're doing things God's way and dating a healthy way to focus on the friendship, which we'll get to in a minute. But I found, man, I need to cut some of those constant comments that I have. Even if somebody were talking, sometimes I'd be like, what's going on there? Some of our guy leaders in the back would be like, hey, what? Saw you talking to her. What's going on? And it just creates so much pressure. And if we're honest, we're all probably guilty of that at one time or another, of making a comment to somebody that added some pressure. And it's like, well, they should get some thicker skin. No, I truly believe that there is this pressure that's there. And I know that from conversations with people. I've had people look me in the eyes and tell me I would never want to date somebody at the U, that they're a part of the U. They're leaders at the U. I would never want to date somebody within the church. Why? Because everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it. Everybody asks you when you're getting married after you've been dating for a month. And it's hard. It's hard to work on a relationship within the church. And I think, how sad is that? Because I believe if you're finding people anywhere, it should be here, with people who are pursuing Jesus just like you are, with people who are going after it just like you are. So the constant comments, they need to stop. The pressure-filled things, they need to stop. So I've made a commitment to myself, like, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm gonna strive to just not do that, because it's just not healthy. And I think when you put that added pressure, it only makes things worse. It seems like dating now, again, has taken on that same level as getting married. Like, you're making the ultimate commitment when you're dating. And in fact, it's okay to go on a couple dates to coffee and get to know somebody without like sealing the deal. The third thing is simply this: criticism. Criticism. And this happens when things don't work out. And here's what I've found within the context of the church community: that when things don't work out, one party or another gets offended at the other, and one person, if not both, their reputations get tarnished or trashed because of what happened. And I just think that with relationships, if we're handling them a healthy way, there's no reason that we shouldn't be friends at the end of it. Not that you should be best friends, because it's always weird to be that girl with the best guy friend that another guy's trying to date you and he's got to filter through your guy friend. Let's just be honest. That's just not right. It's weird. And yeah, shout me down. It's great. But that's always weird, right? But there's no reason that you can't be civil, that you can't be cheering each other on, that you can't want what's best for each other. But what I've found is usually when there's a split up, it causes a war, it causes division within the friend group, it causes the crew of 22 that was also making the condescending comments at the beginning of the relationship. Now that it's split up, man, they're weighing in, they're taking sides, they're dividing. And I believe that Jesus called us to be a unified church. And if our relationships aren't leading us to unity, even if they don't work out, then we may not be doing things God's way. And there may be a better way to approach our dating. And so I want to touch on that for just a minute. But before I do, I want to show you two verses that I believe kind of emphasize what I'm talking about when it comes to criticism. Proverbs 16:28, and we talked about this at the beginning of the series. Proverbs is the book of wisdom. If you want wisdom in every area of your life, read Proverbs. A Proverbs a day will take the stupidity away, maybe. For some of you, it might take a while. A perverse person, Proverbs 16:28, stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. Man, I want to define gossip for you really quickly. Is that okay? Because here's what happens a lot of times. When relationships end, gossip starts. All of their dirty laundry, the person you were just dating, gets aired out to a whole friend group that then makes them uncomfortable coming to church. It makes them uncomfortable to show face. And I just want to throw this out there really quick. If you're dating someone at school and it doesn't work out, you don't stop going to school. If you're dating someone at work, you don't stop, at least I hope not, going to work For some of you, you just need to wake up on time. My goodness, whole nother message, but it's okay. But you don't stop going to work. Why is it that church takes the fallout? Why is it that when relationships don't work out in church, we use it as the ultimate cop-out to stop coming because we feel uncomfortable? Why is it the thing that Jesus bled and died for is the thing that we're so quickly and easily willing to dismiss? Because honestly, it is being planted in the house of God that will produce the life that you want. The enemy would stop at nothing to get you to uproot yourself. And if he can use a guy or a girl to do that, he will gladly do it. That's why I believe that the Bible tells us to be wise, to stay alert, to stay on guard towards the devices of the enemy, because he will stop at nothing to uproot you from where you've been called to be planted. So we should not be allowing a relationship, a guy or a girl, to keep us from being where God has called us. I made a decision a long time ago to let no person pull me from where God planted me. You need to make that decision in your own life. No person that you're dating, no person that you don't like, no person that rubs you the wrong way, nobody. You need to make a decision. Nobody is going to pull me from where God has planted me, because it's staying planted where he planted me that will produce the life that he's called me to. And I'm not going to sacrifice the life that he called me to because a dating relationship didn't work out. I'm not going to do it. I believe you have to get a tenacity about it with church specifically. But I believe also we can do better in helping each other out. Can we not? We can do better at helping each other out when it comes to making a better, more conducive atmosphere to people staying planted when dating doesn't work out, when dating relationships kind of don't work out. But anyways, if you flip the page on Proverbs 17:9, it says this. It says, whoever would foster love covers over an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. I told you this. I'm going to give you a definition for gossip, and it goes right along with this. Gossip is talking about someone to someone who can do nothing about it. That's what gossip is. It's talking about someone to someone else who can do nothing about it. Now, I think it's okay to have one friend that you confide in. I think that's fine within the context of community, but have wisdom when it comes to spreading things about people. I think that love, it says right here, it covers up. What does that mean? That instead of spreading what's bad or what's wrong about somebody, I'm going to cover it up. And can I just use this disclaimer really quickly? If you're in an abusive relationship, either physical or verbal, that is not what I'm talking about right now. I am not talking about that. I believe that you need to come out with that. I believe that you need to get the right help, get the right people involved, and I wholeheartedly believe that. So please do that. I'm talking about the petty stuff. I'm talking about the drama. I'm talking about the stuff where maybe we got our feelings hurt because we were insecure about ourselves in the first place. And when they said, I don't want to pursue a relationship anymore, what happened was maybe they did do some wrong things within it. Maybe they weren't as mature as they should have been. But in a lot of ways, all of us are a work in progress. So instead of looking at them through the eyes of judgment, we look at them through the eyes of grace. The same way that we want God to look through us, the same way that he does look at us, we look at other people through the eyes of grace, and we cover it up and we say, you know what? That's okay, because I'm confident and secure in who I am in Christ, and I don't need a man or a woman to fulfill me. But the fact that we get so upset at the end of it just says that, man, there are some issues inwardly. We talked about this last week, relational pain. There are some issues on the inside that need resolved before I should ever be pursuing a relationship on the outside. There are some issues there. It talks about love covering up an offense. And I think the reason that so many people get so bitter after relationships, and they get bitter towards the person, and then they stop coming to church, is they hold on to the offense instead of letting it go. And I just want to challenge you that offense is a trap of the enemy. It's a trap. Offense is a trap. And if you can see the trap that it is, you can avoid it. If you can see every opportunity in your life as just like a mouse when he goes to get like cheese off of the trap or whatever you put on the trap to catch a mouse, it like snaps him. Like the enemy will use that bait of offense, like that thing that someone else did, whether it's in a friendship or a dating relationship, that thing that someone did, he'll use that, and that's all you can see. When that's all your focus is, you're gonna walk right into it, and all of a sudden you're caught. But if we can be wise to the devices of the enemy, then we won't get caught in the trap. And if we're not caught in the trap, then we won't produce bitterness in us. And if we don't produce bitterness, then we won't become unplanted and we won't start hating people in the you because things didn't work out, or they treated us wrong, or they did something wrong. So it's just being wise about those things. So those are 3 things that I believe are reasons that people don't date within the church. And it's my heart that people do date. I believe God's called us to have healthy relationships. I believe that it's okay to go grab coffee with someone and share some common interests and share your hearts with each other and share what you're doing with your life and what career you're pursuing and those types of things. I believe wholeheartedly that that is okay. And we've got to take the pressure out of it. We've got to take the side of, oh, you've got to commit right now. And we've got to take the unhealthy expectation from both sides out of it. Just let it be what it is. So I have a few keys that I believe are keys to avoiding the dating dilemma. 3 things, 3 decisions to avoid the dating dilemma. And I want you to write these down, and I believe that they will help you. The first one is make a decision to never cause regret. Make a decision to never cause regret. I don't know about you, but I never want to be a part of anyone's regret story. And I believe if we'll take that approach in our relationships, man, they'll be so much better. What are some things, what am I talking about when I'm talking about causing regret? Just a few things that can cause regret. I believe manipulation can cause regret. I believe being dishonest can cause regret. I believe impurity can cause regret. Expecting perfection. And this is a big one. I think sometimes when we set standards, we expect perfection. They're a perfect 10 in all areas, and we can't even fit that mold. We can't even live up to that standard. If we're honest, we've all got some stuff. So maybe it's lowering, and you hate to say lowering your expectation, but not expecting perfection, because nobody can do that. Or the God card. I think the God card can cause regret. Man, I had a few friends in high school, just to be honest. I'd bring a friend to church, and it'd be great, and we'd be going, and we'd be hanging out, and it was cool, and it was the party, and they liked it, and they had friends, and all of a sudden they start dating a girl. All of a sudden, 2 months later, she uses the God card. Guess who wasn't in church? It was like, awesome, I'm on mission, and you're destroying my mission. Great. Can we just resolve to be mature enough to never use the God card? To never say, God told me not to date you. God told me you weren't the one. Even if you're uber spiritual and you're on a spiritual high and you're eating manna for breakfast and you're hearing from the heavens continually, can you just hide the fact that God told you and just say, I just feel like this isn't right. I feel like I want to be friends with you, but I don't want to pursue a relationship. Can we be mature enough to take it on us and say, this was my decision? It was me. Because if they're going to be mad, honestly, if they're going to be mad or offended at anybody, which usually if you're honest about it, they're not mad or offended at you. But if you throw God into it, God told me you're not the one, then all of a sudden they think for some reason God looks down on them as if you're not good enough for them. And they think God has a misrepresentation of them. God doesn't understand who they are, or God doesn't love them as much as he loves you. It can cause all kinds of confusion, especially with someone that's new to their faith. So can we just resolve to not use the God card? Sorry for that side trail, but the God card, it's just a great card to never pull out. The second one is make a decision to pursue friendship. Pursue friendship. See, I think dating would be a lot less of a dilemma if we focused on the friendship. Let me clarify. The friendship probably won't find you in the back seat of your car very often. And maybe that's the reason it's so awkward now to show up in church, because you took her too far and then it didn't work out, and now you're feeling the walk of shame every time you come into church, which you don't have to feel any shame. That's the thing. There is grace to cover any mistake or any misstep that you've had in your life. So accept the grace, take the help of God, and come into the house of God. But in your future relationships, know that when you're focusing on the friendship, the windows probably won't steam up. Unless you ordered hot coffee on a cold night. You know what I'm saying? Just throwing that out there. When you're focused on the friendship, you're gonna get to know the person. You're gonna get to know the person through conversation. This is foreign for some of you. I'm just trying to explain it. Through conversation, through talking to them just like you would a friend, and getting to know about their life, and more than just, dude, she's hot. Like, what major is she? She's hot. What did her life go? She's hot. It's like, what? What's going on? It'd be really funny if it weren't, and it is funny, but it's also true. Ha! Oh, goodness. It's all right. Oh, it's hot up here. Goodness. I can't go on. Can't go on. It's over. Just go home. Just kidding. We'll go on. So pursue the friendship. I've never seen regret caused if you're pursuing a friendship. I've never seen things end badly. You can still be friends if friendship was the focus. The only time that you can't still be friends when it's over is if friendship wasn't the focus. And if love wasn't the center, godly love, but rather lust was the center, that's usually when you can't be friends afterwards. And so guys, can I encourage you? The Bible says, guard your heart above all else, for out of it flows the issues of life. Through the eyes and the ears, they're gateways to the heart. Be careful what you're looking at. Be careful what you're listening to, and be careful what that's provoking. Did the pastor just tell me not to listen to secular music? No, he did not. I just said be careful what you're listening to, because if you're listening to songs about sex and getting jiggy with it all the time, you're gonna wanna have sex. No hate to Will Smith, but you're gonna wanna have sex, and you're gonna be thinking about sex more than the 23 seconds, every 23 seconds like you already do. It'll be like every 3, and that's weird. So you're gonna be thinking about it all the time, and what you think about the most produces the strongest feelings in you, and what produces the strongest feelings produces the strongest desires, and the strongest desires eventually affect our decisions. And so I just want you to be able to make the right decisions when it comes to your purity, and it starts with your eyes, and it starts with your ears. When you're looking at magazines in the magazine section, are your eyes able to bounce? When you're walking through the mall in the summertime, are your eyes able to bounce? When you're at the swimming pool or at the beach, are your eyes able to bounce? Are you able to just move them away from where they shouldn't be? It's a good indicator because it starts there, but it becomes deeper rooted. And I believe that pornography is one of the biggest tools of the enemy to keep us from experiencing true intimacy. And I believe as the church, if we want to flip the script on the divorce rate in this nation, we've got to stop taking sex out of the mold that God intended it. God intended it for good, but when you treat people like objects for your affection and to meet a need in you, for your desires, objects of your desires, rather than the people that they are to be intimate with and to get to know, that's where we miss the point. And that's where we miss out on true godly relationships. I wasn't planning on getting off on that, but sorry for the side trail. The third thing is simply this: always make a decision. Make a decision to always believe and see the best. Or you could say see and believe the best, like it's on the screen. To see and believe the best. Make a decision to always see and believe the best. You could really put it this way. You could say, focus on positivity when it comes to the other person. Focus on positivity. When you're dating, seeing and believing the best is crucial. When you're dating somebody that's a candidate, you can't expect them to have everything perfect. And to always feel, again, all the feels, always feel Like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. Everything they do, amazing. Look, amazing. Sound, amazing. Act, amazing, all the time. You can never expect that. It's an unrealistic expectation. However, you can always choose to see the good. And I'm so thankful that my wife has chose to see the good in me and that I made a decision a long time ago. Because here's the thing, the things that you're like, oh my gosh, he's just so cute. Everything about him, his personality, his quirks, such cute quirks. 6 months in, all of a sudden, those cute quirks, he is so annoying. I can't even believe it. Why does he act like that? You don't even know him sometimes. Gosh, I don't know what his problem is. See, the things that we love the most at the start can easily annoy us the most as we go along in the relationship if we're not choosing consciously to see the best. And when I say see the best, I'm not talking about the character flaws of him getting you to compromise, that ladies, you're overlooking that. Not what I'm talking about. Feel like you need to give that disclaimer. It's like the medicine ads where they're like, this will make you feel amazing. It will give you energy. You'll feel great. You might die. You know what I mean? I feel like you have to give those disclaimers in relationship series like, hey, like there is something to this that like you've got to be looking at their character and judging their character and seeing if there's somebody that's pushing you closer to Jesus. But I'm saying beyond that. I'm saying you're in the dating relationship. They're going to have quirks and you can't expect them not to because you do too. Are you willing to see the best? Or are you always going to point out the worst? Because that's going to determine whether you have successful relationships. And let's just talk about when you break up. Are you willing to pursue positivity then? Are you willing to still see the best in them, even when you may know the worst? Maybe they've opened up to you and told you the worst things about them. And because of that, you've decided this isn't a relationship I can be in. What you do for that information, with that information, says more about your character than it does theirs. When they confide in you as you're getting to know each other, what you do for that with that information, if things don't work out, it says more about your character than it does theirs. Because they were trying to confide in you as a trusted individual, and what you're doing is showing yourself not worthy of trust. And so it shows on you. And so I want to just make sure, because I believe that we can have healthy dating relationships that are focused on friendship, that end in friendship, that end civil, without it causing a great divide, without it causing a war within our friend groups, without my crew of 22 being mad at this dude over here in this section. Like, I'm in the right section, and it's like Mean Girls, you know what I mean? You're like sitting there like eyeing him the whole service. That's weird. Like, let's not do that anymore. I believe they can end in friendship where it's like, we may not be best friends, but we're rooting each other on. We still want what's best for each other. And here's how I believe it can happen. In Colossians 3, verse 13, it says this. It says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone. Everybody say anyone. Anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Again, your ability to forgive, it is what sets you free. See, I believe wholeheartedly that when we start to see forgiveness of offense, of wrongdoings, when we start to see forgiveness as our way out of a trap and not letting them off the hook, that's when we'll actually do it. But too often we look at forgiveness as, I'm letting them off the hook for what they did. No, you're just letting yourself out of what could have been a trap. And you're keeping yourself free. You're keeping your heart from being contaminated. You're guarding your heart. And I believe that that's what God has called us to do. I believe wholeheartedly that you can have genuine, healthy relationships, but they've got to have the right foundation. I'm going to have some guys come up here and help me out. Some mighty men come up here and help me out. So come on up, come on up. Let's hear it for them. Come on. And I'll get you out of here really quick, I promise. But I just want to show you this example. So here we have impurity, and he's going to go down and we're going to show a foundation. Here we have dishonesty, and that's never good. We have judgment, We have the God card. Yikes. We have manipulative, and we have unhealthy expectations. And see, if you have impurity and dishonesty and whatever he was, and the God card, and manipulative and unhealthy expectations, and this is your foundation, and this is what you're building your relationship on, it's gonna fall. It's gonna fall. But if you'll build your relationship, on pursuing the friendship, pursuing a right relationship, pursuing healthy relationships, pursuing honesty, pursuing purity, pursuing the things that you can build trust. Trust is the foundation of every healthy relationship. And guys, like men in the room, I'm talking to you really quick. We have to be worthy of women's trust. We have to show ourselves worthy. You guys are good. Thank you so much. We have to clap for them. Because at the foundation of every healthy relationship is trust. Can she trust you to point her to Jesus? Can she trust you to not take advantage of her? Can she trust you to not get her to compromise? Can she trust you not to manipulate? Can she trust you to be honest? Ladies, can he trust you not to have an unrealistic expectation of what he's supposed to be, that he's flawed? Because if we have those things, if we're pursuing holiness, we're pursuing purity, we're pursuing honesty, we have realistic expectations, we have trust, we have a good foundation to build on, then we're able to build from the ground up through consistency, healthy relationships. I believe for some of you for so long who have had trouble making decisions in relationships, that the dating dilemma doesn't actually have to be a dilemma. That it can be a decision that continues to point you in the right direction, even if those dating relationships don't end in marriage. I'm gonna ask the keys to come back up and help me close this worship experience out, but some of you might be in here, and I'd ask you really quickly, as they're coming up, to evaluate maybe which one of these you are, maybe which one resonates with you that maybe needs some work. Maybe it's the first 3 points. You're the expert that isn't an expert. Maybe you're critical of other people and their relationships. Maybe it's that you need to go ahead and you need to make the decision to never cause regret. Maybe you're a guy and you've done it the wrong way up to this point. I want to encourage you that today's a new day. You can flip the script on that, and you can totally change the direction and the trajectory of your relationships. Maybe you need to focus on the friendship because you've focused on getting too friendly too quick, and that's ended poorly. I don't know what it is for you, but I do know this, that we probably all fall in one category or another of something we could work on in order to avoid the dating dilemma and in order to enjoy relationships that God wants us to enjoy and still stay planted in the house like God wants us to stay planted in the house. I don't know about you, but in every area of my life, I want to be able to say that I'm honoring God in that area. And I believe dating for you right now in this season, it is one of the best ways and one of the best areas that you can honor God.